Hey everybody, and welcome to the channel. Today's episode, we're going to begin talking about firearms and how we're going to field strip and maintain them. Okay, so in the intro, you're going to see 6 different pistols that we're going to start working with. Each of those pistols is going to end up being its own episode, and then we are going to take apart a few different rifles and carbines, and we'll discuss that more later. But hopefully this can help you out. With all the confusion between different manufacturers of firearms, you've got ones that are exactly like Glock. You've got other ones that are very similar and they come apart in a similar way. But then you've also got other ones like High Point, which are way out in the weeds on how they're put together. Because if you're out in the field and something goes wrong, you need to know how to take it apart, clean it, inspect it, diagnose it if there's a problem. And we'll go over a lot of that stuff here in the future. But for this series specifically, it's going to be how to field strip a weapon and how to clean it. I'm not going to go through and clean every one of them. I keep my weapons clean all the time. So we'll discuss the basics of how to clean them. But if it is something you want to know, go ahead and leave a comment down below. And you might as well throw in a like and a follow while you're at it. But we're going to go over these particular firearms, how to field strip them, how to do a basic cleaning, and then how to reassemble from a field strip. If we go any deeper than a field strip, you really ought to take it to a gunsmith. That's the best thing to do. I personally don't like to tear my firearms down that deep. I can. It's not something that I prefer to do. I usually, even my ARs, will tear them down, field strip them. So with these pistols that you're going to see specific to them, and that might help you out on how to tear down some others that are very similar. Hopefully that'll help. If I don't personally own the firearm, I'm not really going to give you pointers. So following this series is going to be very specific to what I own and what I know. And then we'll go from there. Hopefully some of these videos are going to really help people out, because I know when I get a new firearm, especially if I buy it secondhand and it doesn't have a manual, I'm like, how does this thing come apart? How does it, there's one in there in my series that you're going to see, and it has been an absolute delight in everything. Yeah, and we'll talk about that one during that episode. Anyway, let's jump into it. This video is for educational purposes only. It is not meant to instruct or advise anybody on anything, including techniques or opinions. If your firearm is having a problem that you feel you cannot handle, please seek a professional gunsmith. Safety is of utmost importance. The creator of this video accepts no liability for anything anybody may do that is not in accordance with the hands-off approach for anybody watching this video. Thank you. So here are the 6 weapons that we will be discussing and field stripping, cleaning, and taking care of throughout this series of video. We've got the Springfield 911 in 380. We have the SR-22, which is a Ruger chambered in 22. We've got a Cobra 380. Now I'm going to tell you about this one when we get to it specifically, because a lot of you are like, Cobra, I've never heard of it. Well, that's probably a good thing. And then we've got another Ruger here, the Security 9. We'll go through it as well. That's one of my favorites, and I'll talk about the detail. We've got the Smith & Wesson SW40F, which is chambered in 40 caliber. And then I've got an old Smith & Wesson M6, which is a 357 Magnum, which can also shoot 38 special, and we'll get into that as well later on. As a special bonus, there's a couple not featured here, but they are High Point carbines. I've got a couple of them, and the reason we're going to add the High Point rifles here in this is because the internals are exactly like a pistol, but it's got components of a rifle on there, so it's kind of this hybrid in between. Keltec and High Point were able to do this and get these weapons kind of stuck in the middle. But because the internal guts are all just like pistols, we'll go over that in a bonus episode. All right? Well, for now, let's just get started with the Springfield 911. All right, guys. So for this little Springfield, as with any weapon, you need to make sure that it is cleared and there is no ammo in it. You've got to do it in the correct order. So we will remove the magazine by pushing on the magazine release. Pull the mag out, set it aside. Then you've got this lever here. So when you rack the slide back, you can lock it into place. And you can see it locks up in that little groove. These grooves will be important here in a minute as we field strip this thing. And then we want to look down and make sure that there is nothing down there. There's nothing in the chamber, and that the magazine shows. Let's see if I can get a good angle here. There you go. You can see the cloth through the magazine well. So once we get that open, then we know that we're clear. To field strip this little pistol is pretty easy. So what we're going to do is you want to leave it cocked, leave the safety off. That's important to the way this thing comes apart and goes back together. To field strip this pistol, we want it to be cocked. When you have it apart, do not press the trigger. Okay, a lot of bad things can happen when you do that without the slide on this particular model. Now, if you're going to be cleaning your weapons, of course, you're going to need some cleaning kits. Okay, these are a couple of the ones I have. You should have several if you're going to have several firearms. They'll usually have some kind of tool. This one is mostly for rifles, but can handle most calibers. We're not going to go over this one now, but in this little case here, this one has all of your calibers. It's got all the cleaning materials you need for both rifle and pistol. It's got the nylon brush. It's got the little pick and everything. And I snapped this end off so that I could use it as a little punch if I needed. Okay, so a good kit like this. And when it comes to the 911, what we are going to do is I'm going to put this kit aside for now. And I'm just going to use this little pick that I turned into a punch. Okay, so to get the slide off, which is the first thing we need to do when we field strip something, is you've got these holes on this side. You've got this little semicircle, and on the other side, you've got this little nub. Now that nub, you're going to have to push through, and that's what I use my tool for here, the little punch that I made. I'm going to push that through once I get the slide to the proper place. Now this little half groove here needs to be pushed. So okay, so slide this back, cock the hammer, make sure it's there, okay? And then you're going to push this back until, got to get kind of a good grip on it. You're going to push it back until you can see the little semicircle in there. I don't know if you can see that very well, but I'm going to do that again. I'm going to flip this over. The reason that semicircle is important is because that's part of the slide lock mechanism, and that is going to, hold everything in place. Whoop. If I can keep this from sliding. There we go. So now you see the slide lock came off. Now I'm going to let this go forward, and the buffer spring is going to go ahead and open it up. Now you can see that I have the slide off. Now here, do not squeeze the trigger. I'm telling you, just don't do it. It's going to cause problems, and I'm not covering it in this video. So we've got the slide release. We're going to bring this buffer spring out. There we go. So just like that, comes off the buffer rod. And then the barrel, you can just slide it up like this through this, twink, take it at an angle, and bam, the barrel comes off. As far as field stripping goes, that's all that you need to do. Now when we get into cleaning it, you know, we're going to look, if you only put like 100 or 200 rounds down, you're never going to have to get deeper than this to clean. You're going to want to make sure there's no carbon. Now this is pretty clean. It was clean when I put it back together. So there's not really a whole lot to do in here. But one thing that you're going to want is a good lubricating oil. I use CLP because I'm a Marine. Some people will use Lucas oil that you can get down at your local auto parts store. I hear that works great, and some weapons manufacturers prefer that. I just like CLP. The smell brings back memories. So what you're going to want to do is, if you're carrying this in your pocket, you're going to get a lot of lint and a lot of stuff on there. So you want to get clean down in here. You want to get all down in there and make sure it's clean. You're going to rub all this out. See, there's no carbon right there right now. Also, a word of caution. This little guy is your casing ejector. You don't want to be pushing it down. You push it down too far, it's going to cause you problems. I only compress this when I am putting it back together and I need that to not be in the way. It actually is supposed to, it's spring loaded, as you can see, and it's supposed to be folded under the slide as the slide comes back on. So be careful with that. If you fold it too far or you push it into the magazine well, there's a spring in there that you can break, and then you're going to a gunsmith and paying a lot of money for a stupid little mistake. Just two things you don't do with this weapon. When it's cocked without the slide on, you don't pull the trigger. Two, you don't bend that down too far. Simple enough. Now, what you want to do when you're cleaning these weapons is you want to find the right caliber of brush. I like to use the copper brushes. They're just a little bit better. I like the abrasion a little bit. I like to clean out those. I like to clean out the rifling in the barrel. The rifling here isn't super deep, but what I like to do is keep it nice and clean. I take my 38 caliber, which is, close to a 380 auto, and I run it through a couple times. And you look down there, you really can't see too great. But I mean, there's rifling on there. It might be hard to see. It's all right. But you get that clean. You're going to want to clean any part that you can see witness marks where there's slides, where this slide slides along and this moves and it covers. You're going to want to make sure those are clean, and we're going to lubricate them later. Where the barrel slides through here, you're going to make sure it's clean. You should be using proper rags, proper cleaning materials. But where this is pretty clean, we're not going to go too deep into it. A nylon brush like this one works really well. Okay, so I'm not going to get into cleaning this too much. I mean, if you guys really want to see me cleaning the weapons and talking through it all, leave me a comment and let me know if that's what you want to see in future videos. Just going to put it back together now. Now a little tiny bit of CLP, just a couple drops. CLP is really good. I mean, it's a cleaner, lubricant, preservative. You can see that I'm putting it kind of on the rails. And there's little rails in here where I want to put a little drop. Just a tiny, tiny, tiny bit. You don't need a lot, okay? This is the slide and this is the frame. The slide is going to go in these little tracked grooves right here, these little rails. And so I want to make sure there's just a little bit of lubrication to make it happy there, to reduce wear. It doesn't have to be perfect, and you don't need a lot, okay? The spring here, I'm going to put just a little bit of oil because they can catch carbon. And I'm not going to go nuts. I just put a couple droplets on there. That's it. And I'm going to take this barrel and I'm going to put it back down through here. That's going to lock in like that. I'm going to take the buffer spring and buffer rod, and it's going to go right in there. Now on the 911, this is perfectly round. There's no flat spots. I mean, you'd see this on a SIG, on SIG. You see it on Smith & Wesson sometimes. There's a flat groove on here. Anyway, there's an alignment. There's a way to align it. This one does not have it. This is perfectly round. It's perfectly fine to set like this. Now here's the tricky part to this weapon. As I'm going to put it back together, I'm getting CLP all over myself. Reminds me of the days of the Marine Corps. Okay, so we're going to slide it through here. Now here's where we get to this. You can see that the casing ejector actually hits the back of the slide. So bend this down, but don't bend it too deep, just enough for that slide to go over, okay? So to get this weapon back together, you take the frame, you take the slide, and you put the rails together right here on the front end. You see that? Okay, and then this little casing ejector, you're going to want to push it down, and you want to hold it down enough to go under the slide. Now here's the tricky part. Right in the hole where that the slide block goes, if you pull it down and around, you can see that there's a little spot where the slide for the barrel and buffer spring and all that go together, and you've got to be able to hold it there. You don't want to pull it back too far. That's when you start putting this in, and you drop it down to where it sits underneath the catch spring right there. I don't know if you can see that. So what you do then is, once you have this in place and it holds the barrel and buffer tube in place, then you can push this back, and as you push it back, it's going to go into the little groove right there, and then when you push it together, it should lock into place. Now the slide should go all the way forward, and you should be set. Now at this point, with the weapon reassembled, you can squeeze the trigger. Okay, now we're going to do a function check. Okay, put it on safe, no trigger squeeze, pull that back, put it on safe, no trigger squeeze, put it back off of safe, pull the trigger, trigger falls, hold the trigger down, pull the slide back like this, listen for the audible pop. That little click means that everything's well, your function check is good. Go ahead and squeeze the trigger, put it back onto safe, and now your weapon has now been field stripped and cleaned. All right, So if you have any questions, go ahead and leave that in the comments down below. Go ahead and give the video a like. Go ahead and subscribe if you haven't already. And we will move on to episode number 2, where we are going to move on to the Ruger SR22. All right. Thanks and be safe, y'all.